Welcome to the Medical Ancillary Sales Podcast, your number one source for making money in the medical ancillary sector. Mike and Viv bring you the latest information from lab services, pharmacy, diagnostic testing, and so much more. The latest in ancillary services will be right around the corner. Welcoming the hosts of the Medical Ancillary Sales Podcast, here's Mike and Viv.
Hello and welcome to the Medical Ancillary Sales Podcast. I'm your host, Michael Berg, and joined as always by Viv Hudson. How you doing, Viv?
I'm great, thanks, Mike. And I know it's just you and me today, so I know you've got an exciting topic for us. So what are we going to talk about today?
Well, today I thought this would be a good chance to take a step back. We normally talk about specific ancillary programs or issues concerning today's medical practice, or we talk about success stories out in the field, and those are all great topics, but sometimes you need to take a step back and evaluate your overall strategy. And I recently came across an article, and I had been aware of this study that was done previously having to do with goal setting. This was done on Harvard MBA students back in 1979, and it was a really interesting findings. So just to break down this study for you, Viv, this was what they had done. The interviewer, the person that put together this study, had interviewed all of the Harvard MBA graduates in 1979 to see what their goal-setting habits were. 84% of the graduates had no specific goals at all. 13% had goals, but they were not committed to paper. And 3% of the graduates had clear written goals with plans to accomplish them. So the findings were not surprising. The individuals that had set goals, obviously they outperformed their counterparts. And so 10 years later, they did a retrospective. They went back and they interviewed all of these graduates. And what they found was that of the second group, that 13% of the class that had set goals but didn't write them down, they still ended up earning almost twice as much as the 84% that had no goals at all. What was even more staggering, though, Viv, is that the 3% that had clear written goals were earning, on average, 10 times as much as the other 97% put together. Unbelievable.
That's pretty incredible, isn't it? So
it almost doesn't seem real.
Let's go write down our goals if we haven't got them done already, right?
Well, absolutely. And I can say I've seen it in this business too. And I don't want to toot my own horn and say I'm not the world's greatest salesperson. You hear how choppy I am on this podcast. I mean, it's not like but I will say there's certain things that I do better than other people that I don't mind bragging that I do better than most people. Number one is that I can manage myself really well. And number two is that I do keep goals. And even reading this, I'm realizing I haven't written down goals in a while. Boy, I'm really slacking. But I'll tell you, one of the first jobs I had when I got out of college, I worked for this company. And there was probably about 70 or so sales reps. And of those 70 sales reps, I would say in terms of your annual pay, the median person was probably only making about maybe $50,000 to $60,000. There was probably only about, out of those 70, there was maybe about a dozen that were making six figures. Mm-hmm. And then there were 3 guys out of those 70 who were making $300,000 plus, and 1 guy who was making probably, close to $700,000-$800,000. That's not unique to that company. I've talked to many people who have told the same story, where you have a whole bunch of people in the middle, then you got a few outliers. The one thing that I learned from these guys when I started, these guys who were animals, who were closers, they weren't lucky. I could never understand that some people who I worked with resented them, thought that, they lucked themselves into getting all these sales, or they didn't know how they were doing it. But the one thing I remember there was one guy, Greg in particular, who was a particularly good rep, who was definitely at the pinnacle. He was the top guy. And Greg had dry erase boards hung on all four walls in his office, and on one of the walls it had his goals written down. And he had his goals for the month, and he had his goals for the year. So he's looking at that every day, and he would come up with action steps of how he was going to accomplish those goals. So I adopted that, and I thought, I'm just going to do what the successful people are doing. And one of the simple things that I did specifically in the ancillary space, Viv, I know I've spoken about a couple different companies that I worked with before in the medical space. I worked in the dental industry for a while, and my goal was to get up to 100 accounts. That was unheard of, to get 100 accounts. Dental industry, I know it sounds like a lot, but dental industry, there's 1,200 dentists here just in the San Diego market. So, I mean, hitting 100 is not unheard of. But still, that was an aggressive goal, seeing as 40 was the quota. Well, one of the things I did was I just made an Excel spreadsheet. It took several pieces of paper, and I just literally numbered them one down to 100. And my goal was to get up to 100 by a certain date. And I put that up on my wall along with everything else. And every time I landed an account, I filled in another box. And so it was written up there for me that 100 was my goal, and that was a visual representation to me, and it always held me in check. It always kept me accountable, so I knew where I was in relation to my goal. And then every day when I wake up, I see that chart, and I see how close or how far away I am from my goal. I know what sort of effort I need to put in the front end to get the results in the back end. So if I need to grab 3 more accounts this month to hit my next benchmark, and I know that I'm closing on 5% of these, and then I can kind of reverse engineer that and say, okay, well, I need to make 60 more sales calls, calling 60 new doctors in order to get those 3 accounts that I need.
And you're absolutely right. It's the reverse engineering. So once you have that figure in mind and you know what you need to get it, then it becomes a numbers game. And I recently was writing a blog post about a success, and we look at somebody like Colonel Sanders, who he went to no less than 1,009 restaurants before he succeeded with his recipe. Now, he could have gone to one restaurant a day over a 3-year period and finally found success, but he could have gone to 3 in a day and been successful so much quicker because he'd already failed that 1,009 times in the space of 1 year instead of across 3. So it does become a numbers game, absolutely, how much you put into it.
Well, I'm sure you've seen it in your career, Viv, and you've probably, I know you've seen it with people that have worked with us. And some of the successful people, I have not gone in to see specifically have they written down their goals, but I do know that some of the people that have had a lot of success are goal-oriented people.
Absolutely, and it's with anything, it's the 80-20 rule that applies, the Pareto principle, where you look at 80% of your sales will come from 20% of your people, and also as a salesperson, you look at your customer base, 80% of your sales are going to come from 20% of your customers. So when you look at those figures, it's those customers that keep coming back to you that will bring you the most revenue. So once you have your customer base, you can really work that and maximize your numbers from those people that you've built the best relationships with. But having those specific and clear goals is absolutely the best place to start, because, as you said before, just reverse engineering it from there then gives you a strategy for what you're going to do each day and each week to be able to achieve that.
Well, this industry too, one of the things that guy Greg had told me when I started with that company, one of the guy who was the top rep, one of the things he had explained to me, which I still think about to this day, he's like, if you take anything, it doesn't matter what it is, and especially in this sort of environment where it's there's a huge disparity in income. You have some people making tremendous income, and you have there's not a lot of haves, and there are a lot of have-nots. There's a lot of people that stick their toe in the water, they don't give it a full effort, and they're not successful, or they don't have the right tools to be able to achieve success. Most of the money, I don't know, have any statistics to back this up, Viv. So this is purely anecdotal, all right? But those are the best kind of statistics, the one I just make up. I would think that probably the top 5% in this industry probably make half the money. Wouldn't you think?
I would absolutely agree with that. Absolutely. So it's what you said about luck before. Like, the way I look at luck is that it's actually opportunity meets preparation, and I'd probably even throw in perseverance as well. So it's always being there. It's always showing up. It's having the tools that you need. So when that opportunity does present itself, that you're ready, so you can actually see it. So if you're not prepared, you can't embrace that luck, so to speak, because you're not ready for it. So it comes down to putting yourself in a position to be open to luck.
Yeah, and one of the things, I kind of got off sidetracked here, but I was one of the things that Greg told me when I started, I went under his wing a little bit. I was asking him, how do you make this type of money? What are you doing? How do you organize your day? All these things. But one of the things that stuck with me, and this is now going back, I'm embarrassed to say, about 15 years ago when I started with that company. But one of the things he told me was that really what separates the really good, the average person from the great person, it's really just small little differences at the margin. Tiger Woods is not 10 times better than the middle of the road golfer on the PGA Tour. Now, I know this anecdote goes way back because I understand I'm not really into golf, but he told this to me back when Tiger Woods was popular, making money. Tiger Woods is only beating people by a few strokes or something. He's just maybe 5 or 10% better than the next guy, but that translates into him making 5 times the money. Michael Jordan can't jump twice as high as the next guy. He can jump an inch higher than the next guy. That's probably another terrible example. I'll stop with the sports analogies, all right? Damn it, Viv. Get off my case. All right, but you get the point.
But I think the other thing is that in anything, to get better, you have to learn from all your failures, and you have to be prepared to fail. And I know that, if you want to talk about Tiger Woods or Michael Jordan, I know Michael Jordan for sure, he didn't even make the school basketball team, if I remember what I've read correctly. And, look at him. So it was that perseverance and having that plan and that determination that kept him going. So it's staying on that one path and being very determined to achieve that.
Well, one of the things with both of those sports people that we just spoke about, that both of them were famous for, is they were relentless in practice. In fact, teammates used to hate to practice with Michael Jordan because he was so intense and so detail-oriented in practice. And Tiger Woods would be up at 6 a.m. hitting balls, and he's already been hitting balls for 2 hours till the next guy shows up at the driving range. And it's those little differences. He's seen so many scenarios. He's been through all these different scenarios. He's prepared himself better than the next guys prepared themselves.
Absolutely, and it's true. Like your success really does lie in your daily routine. And it's what those people do on a daily basis. I know, like, you get up, you work out every day, you have your own little personal things that you like to achieve in your day, and that's what measures your success, is that routine. It's what you do consistently that will determine how successful you are in life. It's not that one lucky day where you met that great customer, because if you don't keep putting yourself out there and keep doing things consistently, then you never know when that customer goes somewhere else, and then you're stuck with nothing still. So it's all about that daily routine.
Well, Jason and I always say, Jason, my business partner here, that it's a chip on the roulette table. When you get a good lead, when you get a big lead for a big account, it gives you a chip on the roulette table. And if you get it, you got lucky. But if you're good and you're putting in the work in the front end, you got 20 chips in the roulette table. The chances of you hitting something are pretty high at that point.
Yeah. It's true.
So, Viv, in conclusion, what are you going to do now that we've had this podcast? I know myself, just looking at that article, I'm thinking, I have not written goals in a while. I have some goals, but I haven't written them down. Are you thinking what I'm thinking?
Yeah, I think that's a good idea. And you know what will level up your success?
What's that?
An accountability partner. So you do yours and I'll do mine and we can share.
Sounds good. And if you guys are listening to this, challenge yourself. Do this for yourself in anything that you're doing. It doesn't have to just be, selling medical ancillaries, whether it's getting in shape, whether it's, no matter what you want to do. Try writing down your goals and see what kind of success you have. Take the Pepsi challenge. So with that, I think that's a good spot to wrap it, Viv.
All right. Thanks, Mike.
Thank
that
you.
was fun.
All right. Bye-bye.